You gotta teach them how to do things all over again. Back in on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line here for a Tuesday night. It's All-Star Night in Major League Baseball. That is coverage getting underway right now, and the first pitch comes roughly 7 o'clock or so tonight. And we can talk a little bit about the All-Star game. Kevin Wheeler brought this up to me. Just asked me a little bit ago if it was, if it was still what it was, or are you still paying attention? So I do pay attention just as someone who is naturally a baseball fan and of course professionally covering baseball, that I'm definitely interested in. I want to see who's going to the All-Star game, and you look and see who was snubbed from the All-Star game or who you think is there and shouldn't be there, all of those things. And it is really odd to see the All-Star game basically without Cardinals. And I wonder, and another friend of mine brought this up to me earlier today. When's the last time a Cardinal, basically wasn't in the All-Star game? And there's been times when guys are there and they're playing in the game, or they could be playing the game, they don't get into the game. But that's not the case tonight because Helsley is making himself unavailable for the game. So he's not even making himself available to come into the game at any point in time. So there is no Cardinal to appear in the game tonight. And that's weird. That certainly feels foreign. So, yes, I do still pay attention. The last couple of years, I've been doing this during the All-Star game. Last year, I couldn't watch the All-Star game because DirecTV was fighting with I can't remember what group it was, the owner of the local Fox station, Fox 2. So whatever group it is, the Nexstar, I think it is, that owns Fox 2, they were in a contract dispute, and it was blacked out, and I didn't get to see it anyway. I saw a little bit of it here while I was in studio. No, I don't think I even saw it here. We've got DirecTV in the building, so I didn't see it here either. So I didn't see any of it last year. I will get a chance to see some of it this year. And I am on board with everybody else who has said so. Benjamin Hockman wrote a nice column in the Post-Dispatch today, if you get a chance, just pleading to bring back team uniforms in the All-Star game, which I think, it seems to me anyway, looking at social media and talking to the folks that I do, that most people feel that way. That was one of the really cool things about the All-Star game is you get to see all these uniforms. It was really cool back in the 70s and 80s, and certainly the early 80s when I really started watching baseball, when you have teams wearing their blue road uniforms and Oakland's wearing green or yellow road uniforms, and there was a multitude of colors. There is a photo, a video of an All-Star game where Vida Blue wore the wrong uniform for the A's. The A's were in, I think, one of their yellow variations of their uniform, and Vida Blue wore the wrong variation of the uniform. So not only was it a different, everybody wearing their different uniforms, he was then wearing a different uniforms from his teammates that were in the All-Star game. So yeah, I join in those folks that are asking for the uniforms, the team uniforms back at All-Star games. I think that's what most people want to see. It was just kind of part of the lore. Now, the good thing is I saw a report from Tyler Kepner today that he said that Rob Manfred actually addressed that. And he said he's aware of the sentiment. He's aware of what people have kind of been saying on social media, and they want to see that. And he said a discussion will take place. Now, it doesn't mean anything's going to happen, but it means at least that they have heard what fans have been asking for and fans have been pleading for. And so perhaps it will be considered, and perhaps they'll think about doing that for games to come. And I don't know how long it's been. I feel like it's been 4 or 5 years now that we've been wearing the All-Star special uniforms, the Nike uniforms, the last couple of years, obviously. And boy, they're really odd this year. Now, this same friend of mine who brought up the case about Cardinals playing the All-Star game, that's my guy Chris Bray over at SIUE. But he said, if you think about it, who are we appealing to here? Well, we're appealing to the 8, the 9, 10-year-olds, right? That's who I've seen wearing the random All-Star hats, some of the All-Star jerseys. So at least in that regard, it's working. And the target audience, if in fact it is that age group, they are cashing in on what they want to see. And those, they're random. It's like, it almost looks like it's red, white, and blue, or the red and blue, maybe like Texas colors, except then they muted them all. And so they're almost pastel. That's what they're wearing this year. And you can see for yourself and see what you think of that. Coming up tonight here on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line, we've got Brian Walton coming up in our first segment. I guess it's our second segment. He's at thecardinalnation.com. Really extensive coverage of the Cardinals minor leagues. He has a lot out right now, obviously, on the Cardinals draft. And so we'll talk to him about that and what the Cardinals have done over the last couple of days at the draft. 6:35, we'll talk to St. Louis Post-Dispatch Mizzou writer Eli Hoff. He was at SEC Media Day. And today, Eli Drinkwitz spoke there. So we'll ask him about that and kind of an idea of what he expects from this coming season for Mizzou. Kevin Ryans will join us coming up in the 7 o'clock hour of Fox 2, and we can chat a number of topics with him, talk Cardinals baseball and others with Kevin coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. And we can hear from Randy Flores again. He again did a Zoom with media about the draft and some of the things that they looked for, that they got, what they feel like they got. So we can do some of that and maybe have some time for some calls coming up here in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll see how things go. Coming up next, it's Brian Walton of thecardinalnation.com. We'll talk some Cardinals youngsters. That's ahead. It's the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. I'm Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley. We're coming back here on KMOX.
The 2024 Republican National Convention is underway. KMOX News will have convention updates from Milwaukee throughout the week. And Thursday night, Donald Trump will accept the party's nomination. Hear it live beginning at 8 p.m. on News Radio 1120. KMOX.
Do you limp out of bed with a sharp pain in your heel? Maybe it feels better when you start walking, but then bam, feels crippling when you get up from sitting again. That could be plantar fasciitis. This is Debbie Monterey, and take my advice and seek out the doctors at Feet for Life Podiatry for their decades of expertise with heel pain. Their advanced non-invasive procedures offer quick recovery times so you can enjoy your summer pain-free. Visit feetforlife.com for an appointment or ask for a virtual visit if you're out of state, feetforlife.com.
Home as is, help doesn't matter the condition it's in. Help if you want a simple sale with no agency fees. Claiming groups got you covered, no contingency. House a mess, roof damage, bad taxes, that's all okay. Make sure you remember to call Claiming Real Estate.
Let us help you. ClaimingGroup.com. KLAMEN Group.com.
Summer is here, which means pool days, beach trips, and yeah, you guessed it, traffic jams. Oh yeah, and heat waves. Don't let summer catch you by surprise. Get the local news you need, no matter what you're up to, with the free Odyssey app, and never miss a beat with alerts on breaking stories sent directly to your phone. Listen today on the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY.
Celebrate National Carpet Cleaning Month with Zero Res and get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $129 and get a 4th room for free and take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Call right now, 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com and take advantage of the savings.
As a roofer, I'm always on the go. So I need to be able to get things done from anywhere. That's why I partnered with Beacon. With their unique Beacon Pro Plus app, I've got the brands I depend on, like GAF, right at my fingertips 24/7. I rely on Beacon because I never stop building, and neither do they. Now through September 15th, purchase GAF through Beacon Pro Plus and earn up to $1,500. Go to BECN.com or download the Beacon Pro Plus app today. Beacon, always building.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. And one thing I've learned is that you buy a house, but you make it a home. Because with every fix, update, and renovation, it becomes a little more your own. So you need all your jobs done well. For nearly 30 years, Angie has helped millions of homeowners hire skilled pros for the projects that matter. From plumbing to electrical, roof repair to deck upgrades. So leave it to the pros who will get your jobs done well. Hire high-quality certified pros at Angie.com.
I'm Tom Ackerman with this month's Siteman Cancer Center Spotlight, and we are focusing on mental health. Joining me is Dr. Jessica Vanderland, psychologist with Siteman.
Anxiety, depression, PTSD, general distress, insomnia, a lot of fatigue related to cancer, and sometimes body image concerns. All of these are more frequently experienced in a cancer population than in the general population.
Special thanks to Siteman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer. For more information, go to siteman.wustl.edu.
Summer is here. Time to enjoy baseball, barbecues, and the shade of your trees. When it comes to tree care, call the certified arborist at Gamma Tree Experts. Hi, I'm Tim Gamma. Protect your valuable trees. damage or devastating insects such as the emerald ash borer. Knowledge and quality are hallmarks of our reputation. For pruning, spraying, fertilization, or removals, call Game Tree experts
There's not like a
today.
settings or something that allows you to change the background?
314-725-6159 or visit us at GammaTree.com. Your trees deserve the best care.
Broadcasting from the Underline Tree Lawyers, GetJim.com studios.
KMOX.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
It's Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley all week here. It's All-Star Week in Major League Baseball, so Matt gets some time off as well. But we don't take time off here on Sports Open Line. We don't get an All-Star break. We just get some different hosts in the seat, and I am said host for tonight. And we're going to talk not just the All-Star game, but a lot about the draft and what the Cardinals have done over the last couple of days in that regard with Brian Walton. He is of the CardinalNation.com, and he covers the minor leagues and the Cardinals organization extensively. Brian, thanks for taking some time tonight.
Pleasure to join you, Joe.
So I'll ask you, because it was asked of me, is the All-Star game still of interest to you? Do you tune in? Is it something that you make it a point to watch?
You know, I have to admit, without any Cardinals in it, it's not going to be as exciting. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but Ryan, it makes sense that Ryan Helsley decided to sit out. He's had a heavy workload in the first half, and he wants to make sure he's fresh for the second half, and that's a priority for the Cardinals. But, coming off the difficult year they had last year, some of the performers that had good first halves this year, didn't get as much consideration perhaps because, the team hasn't been as good as always. Still, there's some wonderful young stars in the game, and it's a great opportunity to see teams, especially in the American League, that Cardinals fans don't get to see very often.
Yeah, I think that's and that I think is what, if anything, is maybe even toned it down a little bit, because it used to be, certainly when we were younger, that you never saw these guys, right? Unless you were at the ballpark, you didn't get a chance to see a lot of these guys, certainly not a lot of the American League guys. So it was a little bit different, and it's a little bit different now, obviously, that you're seeing every team. So I think that has kind of muted things for me, but I also agree. I do still think it's a fun showcase, and, as a baseball guy, we like to watch baseball, right?
Exactly. I got to admit, the skills competition and even the home run derby, those are less important to me, but the game is still a game, and these guys are out there competing.
Yeah, no question about it. Brian Walton is with us, thecardinalnation.com. So it's also draft week. They just finished up the draft here just a few hours ago. And Randy Flores did talk to the media a little bit ago. I know you were part of that. Talked to him a little bit. One of the things that you pointed out on that call was just, and as Randy Flores described, it wasn't necessarily intentional, but upperclassmen and older players really dominated what the Cardinals did in this draft.
Yeah, almost a third of the players, and 5 of the 10 players that they picked today in day 3 of the draft, of course, that's rounds 11 through 20, were seniors. And Flores made a good point that because of COVID, everybody got an extra year of eligibility, and so the last of those players are coming out. The implication that there may be more seniors, better seniors this year than in prior years. But as Flores said, that wasn't necessarily a part of the Cardinals' strategy. But I will tell you, Joe, that so much of this draft is hinged on J.J. Weatherholt, the first rounder, and there's rumors that he may get more money than his slot value of $6.82 million. And when the Cardinals only have $10.2 million to spend, plus a 5% potential overage, that puts a lot of pressure on them to find players in the rest of the draft who are budget picks, but obviously are good, solid players. And seniors have very little, almost no leverage. I mean, if they don't sign, they can't go back to school for another year. So those players will sign for lower amounts. But the Cardinals also took a couple of flyers in the 7th and 8th round on 2 very interesting pitchers who had Tommy John surgery. I'm talking about Andrew Dukanich from Vanderbilt and Jack Finley from Notre Dame, a right-hander and a left-hander. Had they been healthy and had a full good year, probably would have moved up, certainly would have moved up in the draft and probably gotten more money. So I think the Cardinals were creating to manage to a very limited amount of money. The other point, the reason, if I could just make one more point, Joe, the Cardinals lost their second-round draft pick for the second year in a row. It was the impact of that last year, and this year the signing of Sonny Gray. And they not only lost a second-round pick, but they also lost about $2.25 million worth of cap flexibility. The Cardinals were kind of in an interesting situation. They probably didn't expect necessarily Weatherholt to fall to them, but once he did, it really skewed their draft spending toward that one player.
And I mean, and that I understand that, and I see where that hamstrings you a little bit. However, the flip side of that is he did fall to them, and what a lot of folks have said is you quite possibly have the best all-around hitter available in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, Baseball America's mock draft had Weatherholt going number 1 to Cleveland. So, I mean, this guy has talent to be a first. I'm not talking about some schlocky organization that just rehashes what other people say. I'm talking about an organization that has a lot of people on the ground and a lot of contacts. So, Weatherholt was slowed a little bit by a hamstring injury, but, he's a guy that it wouldn't have been surprising at all for him to have been gone off the board by the time the Cardinals picked. And the fact he was there, they are delighted, I'm sure, to get him. And it'll be fun to see after he signs where they put him, whether they put him at Low A Palm Beach for a while just to get his feet on the ground. Of course, that team is right in Jupiter where the complex is, or whether they, drop him into the Midwest League in Peoria and, use the final month plus of the minor league season for him to start swinging away.
And what kind of goes into that decision? I mean, it feels like they would have maybe a little bit more control and I guess look at him in the Palm Beach facility because you're in the complex, but perhaps the competition is better and get a little more of a test and an idea of what you have if he's in the Midwest League.
That's right, Joe. And really, first you've got to start with the delineation between pitchers and hitters. The pitchers, they've thrown a full college season. They were done by June. So some of them have played some summer ball or done other things to stay in shape. But the Cardinals generally say, hey, these guys have thrown 80 to 100 innings already. We're not going to start them up again just to throw for a few weeks. So they'll have them. Most of these pitchers will pitch informally, on the back fields. They won't get into game action. Can really, gear it up and get going again. We've never seen a player, drafted this early, 7th overall by the Cardinals, and back J.D. for an era, a different time, back in the 90s. So, we don't really know. There hasn't been any precedents like this for the Cardinals to see, when they have a guy with the talent of Weatherholt, whether they will, in fact, put him in Peoria or not. I wouldn't be surprised to see him start in Palm Beach, but, that we've also seen, in fact, where guys are clearly above their league and they, hit 400 and, with an OPS of 1,200, that they move them after a week or two and they realize, okay, we've obviously put this guy in at a talent level that is not, becoming for him. So even if Weatherholt starts in Palm Beach, he could end the season in Peoria.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is Brian Walton's with us from thecardinalnation.com. I feel like this year there is more movement of players among levels than there has been recently. And I'm thinking of a guy like Quinn Matthews, who is moving quickly up the levels. So they've got that going already, that they're not afraid to, if they feel like a guy can go up, they're going to move him up.
Well, certainly, I can't speak to whether there's been more movement this year than not. I will say among the top prospects, there's guys who haven't moved. And, Quinn Matthews has been a tremendous success story. 4th rounder last year from Stanford, threw a lot of innings in college, so people are a little worried about him. Has come in, started at Peoria, blew through the Midwest League, did the same, now in Springfield. But a couple of pitchers on the Springfield staff that we had hoped to see in Memphis by now are pushing the major leagues. I'm talking about Tig Hence and Tekoa Roby,
sure.
Have both been injured and haven't been able to compete. And so, on one hand, you got one guy moving very quickly, but then, a couple of guys there who are stagnant. And by the way, Cooper Jerpy, who was pitching exceptionally, but the Cardinals were very, very careful with him because he had surgery to remove some bodies in his elbow last year. Now Jerpy's on the shelf as well. So, Matthews is the clear and overriding success story in the system this year.
What about Gordon Graceffo? What have you seen from him? It's a guy that Cardinals fans have seen now twice in the big leagues. Obviously, another highly touted prospect for the Cardinals. Got a stint in relief, had a very short start, but someone now on the 40-man, so someone you could see more of in the second half.
Yeah, really, Gordon Graceffo and Michael McGreevy are a couple of guys that were drafted and moved up fairly aggressively. Graceffo had some injuries last year, and he's made some tweaks to his repertoire to take that into account. He's been good at Memphis. He hasn't been great. But again, we have to remember that these guys are really young for the league, both Graceffo and McGreevy. And Graceffo now has that 40-man roster spot, as you noted, and that means that he can come up when St. Louis needs another starter. And it kind of looks like right now Gordon Graceffo is that default number 6 starter for St. Louis. We saw Kloffenstein get tried there. Sam Robertson, who started off so well, the young pitcher from the Netherlands, they got in trade last year, but he's injured right now. And so Graceffo is in a position where, and Zach Thompson, who we were all high on as a reliever last year, has really struggled in the rotation for Memphis. So, right now it looks like Graceffo, has the field wide open to himself. And, he should, as you said, get some chances here in the second half to show that he belongs.
Brian Walton, great to have a chance to catch up with you. I know we'll do it again. I know we'll have plenty of time. Brian Walton from the CardinalNation.com. I look forward to the next time we get a chance to chat. And I would tell everyone, go to the CardinalNation.com. Extensive coverage of the Cardinals organization. Thanks, Brian. That was Brian Walton with us here from the CardinalNation.com. And again, great coverage of the Cardinals system, top to bottom, there at the CardinalNation.com. We'll come back. We'll talk a little SEC football, specifically Mizzou football, as Eli Drinkwitz spoke today at Media Days. We'll talk to Eli Hoff, the beat writer from STL Today and the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. That is next. It's the Graybar Sports Open Line. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley, and we're coming back on KMOX.
Whether you're looking to fill low spots in your lawn, backfill that new retaining wall, or mulch your trees and flower beds, St. Louis Composting has the compost, soil, or mulch you need to help your plants and garden look its very best. Visit our website, stlcompost.com, for more information.
A weak White House, an invasion of illegals, and the woke mob attacking our values. That's what Phil Cristofanelli is fighting for Missouri's future. He supported sending the National Guard to secure the southern border. He defunded sanctuary cities. And Phil Cristofanelli backs the blue to keep our neighborhoods safe from gangs, fentanyl, and human traffickers. He's been named one of Missouri's most conservative legislators year after year. Cristofanelli stands up to the radical left and weak-kneed Republicans. Pro-life, he helped pass one of the nation's strongest anti-abortion laws and defunded Planned Parenthood. Pro-Second Amendment, he stood up for our gun owners and constitutional rights. And Cristofanelli is keeping men out of girls' sports and locker rooms. Phil Cristofanelli, an unwavering conservative for state senate.
Paid for by friends of Phil Cristofanelli, Dan Raker's treasurer.
You have a ton of equity. Your financial advisor thinks the market is peaked, so if you're thinking about selling, it's time, except for 2 things. High interest rates will burn you on a new home loan, and you're not ready to move. Savvy financial advisors suggest Truehold's new Sell and Stay program. It's ingenious because they buy your home now while its value is high, but you can stay in your home as long as you want with an easy, affordable lease. Smart, right? Truehold will make you a solid cash offer, not a lowball offer like the others. It's based on your home's current value. The cash is yours to travel, pay off bills, or secure your retirement. And again, you can stay in your home with a comfortable lease. Truehold covers property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. See how much Truehold will pay for your home today. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit Truehold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without moving. That's Truehold.com.
If you're thinking about selling your home, I'm sure there are 2 things that you want: certainty and the most money, right? This is Debbie Monterey, and if you've been listening to me for some time, you know that the agent I trust is Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, St. Louis's real estate expert. Here's why she should be your first call when looking for an agent. Gloria does not make empty promises. She provides written guarantees. What does that mean for you? Certainty. Certainty isn't the only thing you want. You also want the most money. Gloria is able to get her home sellers more money than the average agent because she already has the buyers. This is why Gloria will guarantee to sell your home at your agreed upon price, or she will buy it. To get your guaranteed price, call St. Louis Gloria Liu at 314-325-6888.
Bearded bald guys in KMOX.
88, or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. Conditions apply. Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date. GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
If you've been hurt on the job, you don't need the biggest law firm. You need the best. Underlaw, voted 2023's best law firm in St. Louis, is the insurance company playing games, trying to deny the medical treatment you need, refusing to pay your lost wages. Underlaw, benefits you deserve. Injured on the job? Call Underlaw. 314 or 618-9-million. That's 314 or 618-9, all zeros.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6481. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6481. That's 800-575-6481. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
What do Donna Vogt, Janet Williams, Susan Honor, and Jonathan Erst have in common? They're just some of the best fans in baseball and winners of a pair of tickets to an upcoming game at $100 to Rawlings. Want to get in on the winning? To get entered, head to KingdomOX.com/contest and upload a photo of you decked out in your game day attire. The best fans in baseball, presented by Kingdom OX and Rawlings, the mark of a pro. For everything St. Louis Cardinals, it's Cardinals Conversations. Use the Odyssey app or hear it on your favorite podcast platform. From game analysis, player and management interviews, it's exclusive Cardinals content from Kingdom OX Sports, where the Ripper talk never stops.
We're back in on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley this week as we switch gears just a little bit here and get a chance to talk a little bit about the Missouri Tigers. And Mizzou football is, man, I figured it out last night. I don't remember now. It's 40-something days away, I think, till the first game. I bet Eli Hoff knows. He is our next guest from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and STL today. He covers the Mizzou Tigers, and it's SEC Media Days happening right now. Today, the Tigers head coach Eli Drinkwitz spoke. Eli, thanks for some time tonight.
Absolutely. Happy to join you.
Do you know the number? How many days are we from kickoff?
You know, I probably should. I don't know. I know the game is August 29th, Murray State, but that's the extent of it from my end.
So I was just reading your story from this afternoon, just kind of detailing what Coach Drinkwitz was saying. And what struck me is, I guess if you're Eli Drinkwitz, you've got to balance yes, last year, great year, but you have to have something to, I guess you have to have a carrot out there, right? At least for your guys, you have to put that aside. Hey, last year was last year. Here's what is ahead of us this year and what we have to be this year. And that was kind of the tone he struck, right?
Yeah, it's a really interesting position for him to have to kind of balance. And it's what he tried to do today, I think, when he was up at the podium of, yes, acknowledging the success of last year and acknowledging that this year could be potentially just as good, if not better, for Mizzou, especially with this 12-team playoff involved. But not letting this team get too far ahead of itself and balancing, not resting on the laurels of last year. It's a tough line to draw, a tough tightrope to balance on, and he's not alone in having to do that. Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss had to do the exact same thing yesterday because they're in a very similar situation. So that's just the challenge of messaging when you're a coach of a team like this that had a good year last year and is primed for another one this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's something that for Mizzou fans and for Mizzou, it's not something that happens on a yearly basis. There have been big years, good years in the past. There's not necessarily been a string of good years. And obviously that is where Eli Drinkwitz wants to get this program is when it's consistent. And we're consistently talking about good years. But quite frankly, as you said, it does have the potential. You talk about a team last year at 11-2 that is more than likely part of an expanded playoff field if it were in place last year.
Exactly, and that's where it makes this year, obviously the schedule looks a little bit more favorable as far as SEC ones go, but you start to realize that if this team can do what it did last year, then all of a sudden it's playing in a playoff game. And, maybe that makes it daunting in some senses with just what went right last year and some of those, kind of fluky plays or talent plays, I guess, depending how you look at it, with a 61-yard field goal, that 4th and 17 conversion, all of those plays. But if Mizzou can meet that same kind of expectation this year, it'll pretty handily find itself in the playoffs come December.
Eli Hoff from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, STLtoday.com, is with us talking about SEC Media Days. Did you get to hear from any of the players? I know Luther Burden III was there. Was anybody else there? And did you get a chance to hear from any of them today?
Yeah, we talked to Luther, we talked to Brady Cook, and we talked to Christian Williams, one of the defensive tackles as well. And all of them really tried to strike a similar chord as their coach, which I think is to nobody's surprise. Just that, there was a lot of talent in last year's team, and there was some of that talent that left. Cody Schrader, I think, got probably more shout outs than any other player at SEC Media Days who isn't on a college roster anymore. And it makes sense, right? You can see why that's not a surprise either. But a lot of praise for last year's team and a lot of talk of players needing to step up and fill those roles this year. Again, a lot of what you expect, and probably if you're a Mizzou fan, what you want this team to be saying right now. There's praise for last season, but there's not a whole lot of maybe complacency or comfort with last year being enough for any of these guys in their Mizzou careers.
Yeah, amen. I that's exactly as somebody who has watched the Tigers pretty closely the last couple of years. I mean, that is exactly what I want to hear. I know that Coach didn't key in on any specific games coming up. I, as a fan, quite honestly, kind of excited to see Oklahoma back in the same conference and now coming to Columbia again for a conference game this year. That excites me.
Oh, absolutely. And I think just because Eli Drinkwitz isn't going to say he's excited for that game, or the players aren't going to say they're excited for that game, one that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be a little amped up when that game comes around. And that sure doesn't mean that the fans can't be amped up or fans can't take that game seriously. I'm sure they'll welcome the uptick in energy or enthusiasm from fans when that game comes around. So I think that's one that a lot of people have circled right away. Honestly, I've heard of more fans who are going to be making the drive over to Columbia for that game, for the Oklahoma one, than for the homecoming game. I really think it might end up being a bigger deal this year, just because of what that rivalry coming back will mean, and what some of the I've been calling it Twitter tension between Mizzou and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, seeing that, if that bubbles over onto the field, there could be some fireworks in that game for sure.
Anything or the biggest concern maybe that you have for the 2024 version of the Tigers?
I think the biggest question mark as things stand is just the defense. And it's not really the fault of anyone on this roster. It's just kind of the natural question. You have a new defensive coordinator coming in. So right off the bat, boom, there's an unknown that just comes with a coaching change on that side of the ball. And they exported a lot of talent to the NFL, which is both a testament to where the program has been. But again, it's an open question, an open challenge for the players who will take on those roles this year. So it's one of those things that those concerns could very much be assuaged by week 5, week 6, once this team has faced a couple of good offenses. But for now, those are open questions that'll have to be answered on the field this fall.
Well, you mentioned it. Murray State comes up first. That's week number 1 for Mizzou. I'm sure we'll have a lot more time as we get closer to the season to catch up. But I appreciate you, Eli, taking some time tonight to kind of give us an insight to what media days look like and what you heard from Coach Drink. And we look forward to the 2024 Mizzou season.
Of course. Happy to do it.
That's Eli Hoff with us here on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Talking a little SEC football, a little Mizzou Tigers football here in the middle of July. But it'll be here before we know it. We've got one more segment here in hour number 1. We'll wrap things up here on this first hour. That's coming up on the other side of the break. It is the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. I'm Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up after this on KMOX.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it.
Oh, nice.
3-day kitchen and bath.
James talks about his experience with 3-day kitchen and bath.
My wife and I had been talking for several years about getting our kitchen and bathroom remodeled. We'd had some bids actually been made. The thing that always put us off was that they were talking about 2 or 3 months to get all this work.
I don't know if they were doing it there.
About 3-day bath and kitchen. We thought we'd give it a try. They spent 3 days on one of our items.
He's not retiring, is he? Or did he say he's retiring?
It was about the same thing as all the people gave us 3-month estimates for.
Yeah, I know he doesn't.
They went out of their way to make sure that we're satisfied with everything when the job was finished.
Yeah,
No question about the idea that they want satisfied.
I can't imagine
they
it's
want
like
people who are pleased with their work.
It's about time. At 3-day kitchen and bath.
Hi, this is Ken Newbold at Newbold Toyota and Newbold BMW. I am so confident that my team will take care of every one of your service and sales needs. I'll give you my cell phone, 618-791-5470. Newbold Toyota.
These guys in your headphones.
If you have a
Bart
problem,
Inman and all these guys,
believe me, it's not going away on its own. The IRS never gives up. They have
They
endless
score already, did they?
resources so they control the game. Well, your tax problems can end. I'm attorney Lance
What a
Drury
time.
with the Drury Law Firm, a local tax resolution firm with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. I've handled thousands of IRS cases over the last 15 years. So when you hire me, you won't be speaking long distance or sending money to some TV pitchman that's riddled with consumer complaints. Your first visit is completely free and confidential, and I'll tell you on the spot exactly how much it will cost. So call me, Lance Drury, at 314-260-6120. That's 314-260-6120. Or go to Lance, DRURYlaw.com. If you have IRS issues, you need a local attorney, you need me, Lance Drury.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Conservatives need real America First warriors to take the fight to the swamp. But Bob Onder attacked President Trump, proudly voted against him, and opposed Trump on China because Bob Onder is just another career politician we can't trust.
All of these commercials too. Good Lord.
Paid for the content of this advertisement.
I know. We're only in July.
Conservatives4AmericanExcellence.com.
Ad paid for by AG Marketing Group. Attention timeshare owners. If you need to get rid of your timeshare for any reason, please listen to the following message. Getting out of a timeshare commitment is not easy, and it takes time. But we specialize in helping consumers legally get rid of their expensive timeshares forever. Can't get the vacation dates that work for you? Maybe you felt taken advantage of or forced into the timeshare? Maybe you just can't continue to shoulder those monthly payments any longer. If you need to eliminate your timeshare commitment, then you need to take down this number, 800-866-7061. We will safely and legally get rid of your timeshare payments forever, all with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't continue to let your timeshare be a financial burden to you and your loved ones. Call us now at 800-866-7061. The call is free. The consultation is free. Call 800-866-7061. That's 800-866-7061. Again, 800-866-7061.
Join Mark Patrick seminars and lose weight or stop smoking guaranteed. Early bird special only $49.99. Seminars Wednesday, August 14th at the 4 Points. Weight loss seminar 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking seminar 8 p.m.
1-800-JUNK is your friend with the truck.
We make junk disappear.
All you have to do is point.
All our people are in uniforms.
And our trucks are clean and shiny.
And big.
We leave spaces empty and clean
for you.
1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Because Genesis of St. Charles had a record month in June. People stopping in to see the beautiful new showroom and the incredible selection of gorgeous Genesis vehicles. And if you stop in to Genesis of St. Charles, July specials. Too many to list right now, but I can tell you 5.99% APR financing for 72 months on most Genesis models with approved credit. A quarter-mile lease at Mid-Rivers Mall Drive off 70 or online at genesisofstcharles.com.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
It is the Gray Bar Sports Open Line here for a Tuesday night. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley as the National League All-Stars in their I don't even know how to describe the uniforms they're wearing. Navy blue with it honestly, it's just pink and blue. It's not as I said, it's almost like red, white, and blue, like red and blue for the Texas Rangers, but then it's like muted back to be pastels. So it's really just pink and blue. And then at least the National League have the dark uniforms. I think the American League uniforms are like more pink. They're like almost full pink. It's just, again, it's weird. I just would prefer to see them in their full uniforms, like I think most people that you talk to would prefer to see the different uniforms. I mean, in a situation like this, if you're the Cardinals, if you wanted to, you could send your players in their victory blue uniforms, right? Because, I mean, technically that's a Saturday uniform, but it's a road uniform. You could send them in the road uniform. You could do those kind of things so they could still be different. And I saw, maybe this came out of Benjamin Hockman's column, I'm not positive, but somebody mentioned you take the regular uniform they're wearing and you make it all-star-ish. So you make a version of, the Cardinals road uniform to commemorate that it's an all-star selection. So you could still, because we know this is why there's full Nike uniforms and there's different hats for sale. I get it. So you could still do something like that if you create a version of each team's uniform. So you're not really altering it too terribly, but you can alter it enough so it's a little bit different. So it offers something that somebody wants as far as for sale, something different than I'm just buying a white Cardinals uniform or a gray Cardinals uniform. But anyway, this is what we've got, at least for this year. And we'll see if Rob Manfred actually does stick to, or I guess he'll stick. Nothing can happen if he still can have the conversation. See, he hasn't promised anything is going to change. He has just said there are going to be conversations to come because he understands that is what fans are looking for, is they're looking for the original uniforms. So we'll see what happens there. There's Ryan Helsley right there. How about that? Just as I look up and producer James gave me a little wave, that's Ryan Helsley. So he is there, and we talked about this last night. He has chosen not to pitch, but he does get to participate in all of the All-Star festivities. He gets to be, I guess, the red carpet earlier today, and he's out there, gets introduced to the fans, and then gets to really hang out. And I am definitely not upset about the fact he's not going to pitch. That doesn't bother me at all that he's not going to pitch, because we talked about this last night too. He has been so very good this year because of the way he has been deployed and because of the days of rest they've given him, because the certain situations that he has been in. Joe Roderick, when we talked to him last night, even hypothesized that perhaps if you're coming into the All-Star game, you're not coming into a safe situation. You're not coming into a 3-run lead, specifically, you got to get out of it for your team to win the game. More likely than not, he's going to come in the middle innings somewhere and throw to 1 or 2 hitters, if that were the case. I mean, there's a chance he could come in at the end of the game, but there's less of a chance that he's coming into a true safe situation. And so how does that affect your mentality? Because we've seen it, and you can say that sounds weird. We have seen it many times before. Closers, and Ryan Helsley is one of them, when they're not necessarily in their element, and that means they're not necessarily in a safe situation, things change, the mentality changes, and the performance changes. And perhaps he's worried about that negatively affecting what happens going forward. You hear all the time about the hitters that feel like the home run derby has negatively affected their swing because they're going out there specifically to try to hit home runs, which they are not doing during the regular season. Now, for Albert Pujols 2 years ago, it might have done the opposite. And I mean, he went off for 15 home runs in the second, or 18 home runs, I think it was, in the second half of the season on his way to 703 career home runs. So perhaps it did the opposite for Albert Pujols a couple of years ago. But a lot of players and a lot of hitters will tell you that it negatively affects their swing because of the approach at specifically trying to hit home runs. So maybe it's the same way there. And maybe he felt like if his mentality was not a safe situation, not the high pressure kind of situation in which he thrives, that would negatively affect him going forward in the second half of the Cardinals season. Either way, I am okay with it. I wish there were more Cardinals in the All-Star game. I think you could certainly make a case for a Mason Wynn in the All-Star game. I think you can make a case, for a couple of other guys in the All-Star game. A couple of pitchers probably in the All-Star game. Sonny Gray probably has a case for the All-Star game. So that part of it, I wish I was seeing more Cardinals in the All-Star game. But for Ryan Helsley, I just want Ryan Helsley to be whatever Ryan Helsley has done from the start of spring training through now, from the off season through now, let's just keep that going forward. Whatever has kept him in superior shape and mental acuity, whatever it's taken, then yes, by all means, do not change that, do not alter that, because it has been really, really good for Ryan Helsley. I mean, think about where this team would be without what Ryan Helsley has done, and obviously extend that out to the rest of the bullpen and what the rest of the bullpen has done, but specifically to have the closer that you have in Ryan Helsley, the now dominant closer at the back end of games, and pair that with what the bullpen has done, but you have that shutting you down at the end of the games. It's almost automatic. It's what you want in a closer, and it feels like the Cardinals never have in a closer. It always feels like you can go back to Isringhausen, Dave Veers, like all of the Trevor Rosenthal, all of these guys at the back end of the Cardinals bullpen. It feels like, oh, you got to get a guy on base. You got to get two guys on base. You got to make it difficult every time. It has felt like that for years. It felt like that previously, quite frankly, with Ryan Helsley. Ryan Helsley had not been this dominant shut-the-door closer like he's been this year. And I think that's a direct result of the way he has approached it, the way the Cardinals have approached his use, specifically almost exclusively employing him in save situations. So I am glad for whatever it has taken as far as that goes. And watching this team and watching what he has done, it has worked out fantastically, and I'm all for not altering that. So when we come back here in hour number 2, we'll have plenty of time to take some phone calls tonight. I know I said that last night. We do have some time to take some phone calls tonight. We'll let you hear a little bit of what Randy Flores, the Cardinals assistant GM, and the director of scouting, who is what he's kind of said about some of the draft as it finished up today, some of the guys that they drafted, but also just some general thoughts from Randy Flores. We will visit with Kevin Ryans. He is Fox 2 now, and we can talk to him about a lot of things, Cardinal baseball, anything that we want to talk to him about sports-wise. We'll do that. But otherwise, we've got pretty open segments here coming up. So we will have some time for some calls at the end, really middle and end of that 7 o'clock hour. And you can talk about what you like. Tell me if you are watching the All-Star game. Anything about the All-Star festivities, anything about the All-Star game you would change. We can talk about a lot of that when we come back here for the second hour of the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauly, back after the news on KMOX.
Is your home, business, or church looking tired, chalky, or in need of curb appeal? Go Rhino. Tired of painting year after year? Go Rhino. Unique 3M ceramic technology is perfect for brick, stucco, aluminum, steel, color lock, masonite, and more. It's backed by our 25-year transferable warranty to not chip, crack, or peel. Great if you're staying, and even better if you're selling. Our ceramic coating allows you to maintain all of your architectural features. The decision to do vinyl will leave your home looking like a Rhino Shield. In 15 years, your home will still have that. Wow, it looks like just got it painted.
But I'm more on board with that than I am with that.
Pole barns, and commercial strip malls. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. Evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't hate, don't Rhino, go Rhino.
My dog, we had a love seat.
Tom Ackerman for Busey Bank. We proudly recognize
lay on the back of it like
Child and Family Center as a building community.
We got rid of it and we went to
the center provides high quality early education and support for families regardless of their financial situation or a child's development level.
So we took a little
programs that address all areas of child development with a special emphasis on the social emotional skills necessary for future success. Learn more at LeeMay.childandfamily.org.
This is Pat Peering, Executive Vice President of Busey Bank. The Lee May Child and Family Center has been building community in South County for close to 50 years. In that time, we licensed today for 121 children. The center also offers parents resources, referrals, and support so they can provide more stable homes. We at Busey build strong families make strong communities. Join us. Get involved. Help your neighbors as we continue building communities.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
No idea what letters from the IRS. You wanted to act like it didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real. And I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job. Life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-682-9928. 800-682-9928. 800-682-9928.
Optima Tax Relief.
Details, please visit
This is KMOX, the trusted voice of St. Louis. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
She's never had any interest in chewing or the biting. We got her, it was about a year and a half.
CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by
O'Reilly. And she has never gone to the bathroom in the house.
Republicans from across the country are back at Milwaukee's Pfizer Forum for day 2 of the Republican National Convention.
One time my sister brought her dog over.
Just tonight, you're going to hear former presidential candidates Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, alongside addresses from Florida Senator Marco Rubio and Larry Trump. Make America once again is tonight's theme. They say it'll be all about immigration and crime. They hear from also people
right at my wife and I peed all over her own bed.
Oh my
God. Has been a big theme of the Trump campaign. They say that President Biden and Vice President Harris have not done enough.
CBS's Meg Oliver reports on why Secret Service protection was increased last month for former President Donald Trump.
CBS News says information from a human force along the line chatter picked up by intelligence officials worried them enough to
What's your other one?
Trump's security last month. There's been an ongoing threat to assassinate Trump since he ordered a U.S. drone strike that killed Qasem Soleimani, the head of the force. Kurdish officials have not found any ties to Saturday's failed attempt on Trump's life by a 20-year-old American shooter. A federal grand jury in Brooklyn, New York, has returned a 4-count indictment charging the Georgian national Rafael Chishvili with soliciting crimes and acts of mass violence in New York City. According to court documents, he's alleged to be the leader of a white supremacist to commit arson, bombing, targeting.
Oh, look at you!
Like you're such a good boy.
President Biden is making the rounds in a series of interviews showing that he still has what it takes to be commander-in-chief.
Sandy likes the yard too.
The president sat down with BET News and for an interview set to air tomorrow night. He spoke about being in the race.
She never did her old house. It's only been since we've moved. We've been here about 5 years. And so she will, and if she sees an animal or something,
damaging storms moved through the Midwest last night. Some residents in the small town of Nashville, Illinois, were forced to flee their homes as the local dam flooded the town, surrounding roads.
She used to like run around. Now she like
Illinois Department of Transportation crews begin their on the roads after a reservoir in Nashville, Illinois, overflowed, reaching the dam in the town of 3,000. Residents in the path of the flooding and businesses as well.
And we're enough there
like a river through their building.
We have these
Sean Malone for CBS News.
Through our neighborhood.
Storms moved through the Chicago area where the National Weather Service has confirmed
she'll like
5
stretch up the tree and start barking up the tree because she knows where they are.
Is CBS News.
Oh, that's funny.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need from the professional people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Oh my God. At my house, I can hear them, but I've never seen them.
Mid-America's most trusted source for news. KMOX.
At 7:03, we have clouds and 78 degrees downtown at the Arch. I'm Maria Keener. Our top story this hour. Ferguson police are working an incident in the 500 block of South Florissant and Paul Avenue. Now, traffic is restricted on Paul. Police say they were investigating the shots fired call near Suburban and South Florissant. Police are asking people to avoid the area, but say there is no immediate threat to the public. Now, other details so far have been released.
Attention, the failure of the Nashville Dam is imminent. Please evacuate your home at this time. The community center is open for shelter. Evacuate now.
That's the emergency call as torrential rains caused businesses to flood and a reservoir overflowing in Nashville, Illinois.
I spoke with Dulce King, who works at Zapp's AC Towing, which was located
like a monsoon that came
next to
through
where
here.
the reservoir flooded over the roadway and into their
I
office.
don't think that was in the forecast.
At least 3 feet.
I didn't know it. I woke up this morning to.
I thought it was more like this evening.
I woke up this morning to like loud thunder and
Oh my
pouring
God,
rain
yeah.
this morning.
Was river inside the office?
Yes. And it didn't take long for it to come in once I was told it was coming.
She says once the secondary dam gave way, as it's
Was it like
designed to
in
do, it
Afton,
didn't
right, or
take
right
long
outside
for the
area?
road to be completely flooded,
we had
pushing around some of the
our-
cars that
I
they
mean,
have in their
go
lot
on.
as well. That's how
Yeah.
strong the river was flowing. In Nashville, Illinois, Sean Malone, KMOX News.
Now, KMOX virtual consumer editor, Megan Lynch.
A U.S. Senate report released today reveals Amazon's popular Prime Day sales event has been a major cause of injuries for warehouse workers, including those right here in St. Louis.
The number of injured workers, the 45 injuries per 100 workers, that doesn't even surprise me.
That's Chris Mano, a worker at the Amazon Fulfillment Center in St. Peters. Mano has been organizing for better working conditions.
The report really just underscores and confirms everything that me and my coworkers at FTL8 have been sounding the alarm about for a couple of years now.
The year-long Senate committee investigation led by Senator Bernie Sanders finds that peak shopping times, including Amazon Prime Days, resulted in the highest weekly injury rates for warehouse workers. In March, the company said it has allocated more than $750 million to safety efforts for the year.
A St. Louis nonprofit is looking for new collaborations to help disadvantaged communities contribute to the region's economy. Jason Purnell, president of the James S. McDonald Foundation, tells KMOX that he is looking for innovative strategies to help people build long-term wealth.
What we found in our research as we developed our strategy is that regions that are more successful in having inclusive and sustainable economic growth are regions that find ways to collaborate.
The foundation is offering $2 million grants. At 7:06, Dave Murray has another check of the forecast.
The big time tremendous rains are over, but we could continue to see some showers anyway over the next couple of hours. But the thunderstorm activity is done. The front sinking to the south, just barely. Partly to mostly cloudy skies as we go through the late night hours after the showers dry up. Let's say by about 8 or 9 o'clock, 72 for the low. Not a lot of change in temperature at all. Kind of like where we are right now. Wednesday, partly sunny skies because of the low level humidity that will be left over. There could be a couple of spot thunderstorms, but fairly limited, 85. Wednesday night, clear skies, 63. Thursday, sunny. Still low level humidity to deal with, but we're drying out on Thursday. Pretty nice day, 81. Thursday night, clear skies, 59. Friday, sunny and 81. The weekend, Saturday and Sunday, partly sunny and 83 degrees. We need these several days to dry out. I'm meteorologist Dave Murray for the voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
77 degrees right now in St. Peters. It's 78 in Florissant and downtown the Arch, 78. I'm Maria Aquino, KMOX News.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Joe Hunt in for Matt Pauley tonight. Again tomorrow night and Thursday night here as we take you through the Major League Baseball All-Star break. And Matt will be back with us here on Friday as the Cardinals open up the second half of the season. They've got Atlanta and then Pittsburgh. And we can talk a lot about what is coming up in the second half of the season. We can do more of that over the next couple of days probably because we don't have the draft to talk about. We don't have the All-Star game to talk about. There's not a lot to talk about. We got some bad news today from potentially bad news anyway, from the St. Louis Blues as they sent out a notice that Doug Armstrong has announced that Torrey Krug has been diagnosed with pre-arthritic changes in his left ankle. So the injury is actually a cumulative result of bone fractures. So earlier injuries in his career. And he will work to rehabilitate that again through, at least to start, through non-surgical interventions. And that is going to be over the next 6 to 8 weeks. After that time, he's going to be reevaluated. They will check and see if surgery is necessary at that point. And then at that point, if it is, he's going to miss the season. And that's what they said, basically, is that if surgery is necessary, he will be unavailable for the 24-25 season. Right now, he's considered to be out indefinitely. And again, they're looking at 6 to 8 weeks before they will reevaluate, which puts you right on the cusp of training camp. I mean, almost basically right to the season. When you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks, if you say 8 weeks, it's 2 months from right now. So you're at September 16th. You're coming up on the start of the season, quite frankly. So a tough blow to the Blues. We'll see. We'll keep you up to date on that and what happens as we get updates. I don't know that there'll be really any updates until they get through that 6 to 8 week period. I don't think there's going to be any kind of there's really, it sounds like anyway from that, and it was a pretty short announcement, but it sounds like there's really not any kind of benchmarks or anything they're looking for now. They just need to see how the ankle responds to whatever their, as they said, non-surgical interventions over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks. So tough for the Blues. Kevin Wheeler did note that they did sign a defenseman in Suter earlier this month, just actually it was like last week that they agreed to their deal with Ryan Suter from the Dallas Stars. So perhaps they had some indication that at the very least they might be, that Torrey Krug might be missing some time. So maybe that was a hedge your bets kind of thing, kind of signing for the Blues. Again, we'll see. We'll keep you updated on that. Kevin Ryans is coming up in our second segment here in hour number 2 from Fox 2. We'll chat with him certainly about the Cardinals and what the Cardinals have done over the last 2 months of the season and maybe what to look forward to in the coming weeks and months as we get through the All-Star break and as we really get on top of the trade deadline. I do think it's interesting. I will wait and see, as we get there. And I think a big part of what the Cardinals will do is going to depend on what they get out of Tommy Edman. When Tommy Edman comes back, what they think they can get out of Tommy Edman. At least it sounded to me, I would expect Tommy Edman to be maybe within a week of the second half starting. I think they do want him out. I know they do want him out again on a rehab assignment. There's nothing that he can be doing right now, basically, except for working on his own. There are no games to be played because all of the minor leagues are out on the same break. So he can't be, it's not like he can even really go to the Florida complex and be working on things. And that's what John Mozeliak told me on Sunday morning, that really it's just about, working himself. I'm sure that he is conditioning and doing things like that to keep himself in shape and continue to get ready. Remember, he hasn't played a major league game this year, but they'll want him to go back on a rehab assignment when the second half gets started after the All-Star break. Whether that's Springfield or Memphis, it doesn't really matter. It's just about getting the opportunity to play in games. And he's only DH'd. He hasn't played the field yet at the minor league level. So that's the other thing, is they've got to see him play the field and probably like to see him play the field in back-to-back games. So what you get from him, how he responds to whatever that rehab looks like to start the second half, and then if and when he comes back and how much you're getting from him, that's all going to play a lot into what the Cardinals are able to do or want to do when it comes to the trade deadline. I expect them to be at least, moderate buyers. I don't think they're going to stand pat. Let's put it that way. And it doesn't look like, anyway, we don't have indications that it's going to get to the point where they need to be selling off as they were at last year's trade deadline. They are securely in a wild card spot right now as it stands. And quite honestly, very close to the division, just 4.5 games out of the division. So it's all right there, and I think that they'll make moves to continue to improve the team. So when we come back here on the Graybar Sports Open line, we'll have a chance to get into some of that with Kevin Ryans. We will have a chance for your phone calls coming up in this 7 o'clock hour. I don't know if it's going to be 7:35 or it'll be maybe closer to 7:45, and maybe have a chance to get a few calls in. And I'd love to know if the All-Star game still holds the same, if you still have the same opinion of the All-Star game. Is it still as important to you as it once was, or was it never that important to you? Maybe it never was a thing. Maybe it's always just been an exhibition, and that's fine, and it's still the same way, and there's really no change in feelings. Or if you have thoughts on what they would do to improve the All-Star game, because it has been basically the All-Star game. There's not been any changes to the All-Star game. Take away the few years when it counted for home field advantage to the World Series, but they've not done anything to change it. I don't know what you would do. It's not like we're,
they've done with the NHL, where you can take the divisions and play mini games leading up to it, almost a small tournament style. I don't know if you could do something like that. I don't know what you would do to change it up, but it's definitely not. It doesn't have the same maybe cachet, because you see these players, you see the American League players, and quite frankly, you see all of the stadiums that they're in. That was the other thing when you were younger, is you got to see views of these different stadiums that we hardly ever got a chance to see. So Kevin Ryans is up next. It's the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. I'm Joe Pott, in for Matt Pauley. We'll talk to Kevin on the other side of the break here on KMOX.
2 ways to listen to KMOX in your car. 98.7 in the city, 11:20 a.m. further out. The voice of St. Louis, KMOX.
Benny Iyer, who's an NFL.
Comes in many colors.
It's just an ad that's playing here. I'll go back.
Something that gets you all fired up, or gives you the space to
Benny Iyer, who's an NFL.
Whatever your color, bring happiness
old
home.
Cardinals All-Star hats, the two
Happy place,
or 2 stars on it.
CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Get started today at CertaPro.com. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
This summer, take a trip down memory lane with me and hear from the legends of baseball. I'm Brett Boone from the Brett Boone Podcast. Every week I have a conversation with one of baseball's greats to talk about the glory days and reflect on today's game. Randy Johnson, Pete Rose, Deion Sanders, Jay Buhner, Albert Bell, and Goose Gossage, they've all shared their wisdom with stories of their playing days. To hear who's next, follow and listen to the Brett Boone Podcast on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. So tell them today, I love you. Get screened. It could help save their life. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn more.
Planning for retirement can be overwhelming and stressful, especially with challenges like record inflation, rising interest rates, potential recessions, and the uncertain future of Social Security. These factors can significantly impact your life savings. So, what steps are you taking to help preserve your financial future? Join the All Financial Group at their office Thursday, July 18th for an informative presentation. Their goal? To help you gain valuable tools, insights, and proven strategies to make informed decisions about your retirement planning.
Now, I've got a list of roadblocks that I have people ask me about on a regular basis. Inflation, tax, what's going on with the
RAD on. So registration is required. Call 636-230-8824. That's 636-230-8824. Or visit yourmoneymattersstl.com to secure your spot. Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC IPW, a registered investment advisor.
Are you kidding me? You bet your britches Jerry Kelly is open. And as you might expect, we're taking this essential service thing pretty seriously.
Hello, Kevin.
And by Jiminy, a nice smelling, looking, extremely articulate technician will be right over. And if that's stretching it a bit, we promise they will have it going on. And we promise this too. Call us and we'll show up the same day. Yeah, same day service calls from the Fix It Right, Fix It Fast folks at JerryKelly.com.
Do you feel like you're going through life clouded by doubt?
Is Nolan Ryan dealing with California?
Our trusted and accurate support are available 24/7, and we guarantee if it's not life-changing, it's free. Download the app or connect with us at CaliforniaPsychics.com.
Well, I'm sure these guys love this.
Right
now, right before I warm up.
80% off their first reading.
Is it Corbin Burns?
Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics.
You're in hot water, mister.
What'd I do?
I told you months ago our utility bills were getting higher because of that old outdated tank water heater.
Maybe that's like highlighter pink.
Learn about Navient's high-efficiency tankless water heaters, endless hot water, all while helping you save on your energy costs.
Hey, look at this. Our utility bill is lower since we got the Navient tankless water heater.
Who's in hot water now?
We are, all the time.
Learn more at tanklessmadesimple.com.
Local insights, breaking news. KMOX, the news station dedicated to St. Louis and the region. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Joe Pott back in on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line, a Tuesday night as we
as I fill in for Matt Pauley here this week on KMOX. Glad you're along with us, and we are glad to have our next guest along with us as well. He is Kevin Ryans of Fox 2, and we can talk a lot of good stuff. I'll start with you, as I started with Brian Walton earlier. Are you an All-Star Game fan? Do you like is there anything you would change about the All-Star Game?
I love the All-Star Game. It's one of my favorite events during the baseball season. I know a lot of people kind of look at baseball as the summertime deal. For me, I'm all in on the 8 months, and part of that 8 months is the All-Star Game. The only one thing I would change, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of this earlier this week, those uniforms need to go back to the team's own uniforms. I just love that, watching as a kid, seeing I grew up in New York City, a big Yankee fan, Derek Jeter wearing his number 2 in pinstripes during the All-Star Game was awesome to see. I'm not a fan of these uniforms. I can't believe that someone designed them and was like, this is what we're going to showcase here in Major League Baseball.
And these this year are especially bad. Yes. We were sitting here in studio, my producer James and I, just mulling over what exactly is that? Is that like a highlighter pink color? I mean, that's really bright.
Yeah, and it's strange because I'm not even sure if it's the Texas Ranger colors. You would think it's the Texas Rangers Stadium. They would try to do maybe more Texas Rangers kind of theme. It was a bizarre mix and match of colors, but I guess we have to accept it, But the inner young 9-year-old Kevin Ryans wants to see the teams in their regular uniforms again.
Agreed, 100%. And in fact, I think about it. It used to be the colors and the style of at least the home team. When the game was in St. Louis in 2009, I think the American League wore the navy blue tops. The National League wore the red tops. They even had the Cardinals sitting on the top of the National American word mark across their chest. Anyway, that is not the sole reason that we've brought you on. So let's talk a little bit about this first half, obviously, what we saw from the Cardinals, because at the end of May, or I should say the end of April, the beginning of May, it looked like it was going to be a repeat of last year, and that's obviously not been the case, and it sets up for a much different second half now than we saw and then that we had last year.
Yeah, and if you would have asked me in the middle of May, if this team would be in this position, I would have said heck no. But kudos to the Cardinals for turning it all around. They played some terrific baseball behind their offense, kind of heating up. The guys likes of Alec Burleson and Mason Wynn having a good year, and getting some really good timely pitching out of their bullpen, and their starters definitely stepped it up on this last little stretch. Not the most consistent out of some of them, but for sure they've gotten some good contributions. Kyle Gibson and Sonny Gray, to name a few. I just really love the mentality of this team. When you talked to them earlier in the year, and they were really struggling and scuffling, they always talked about how they came to the ballpark ready to play baseball, no matter what the situation was. They were all very even keel, and it turned around on them. And now you see why they believed in themselves going into spring. And when they were really struggling in that beginning part of the season, they knew they had, at the very least, the talent to be in this position where they're in one of the wild card spots. They definitely have the back of the end bullpen rotation down packed, and they're playing well for sure. The offense is heated up. You love what you see out of the Cardinals, particularly the last couple of months, and how they approached every day. And now that they've had some success, how they've been able to, at the very least, sustain it for some period of time.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, and I talked about it briefly, I think, on one of the post-game shows maybe, but I felt like that too. I felt like maybe we were panicking, and those of us on the outside, oh, here we go again. I never got that feeling from guys inside the team. When you've talked to, whether it's Oliver Marmol or you talk to the players, even obviously players that went through this last year, I never got that feeling.
It's 162 games, and I think, I think 40 games is certainly a good sample. But and then again, you look at the schedule, and there's 120 games left. So, they were 9 under 500, but 162 games is a long time. There's going to be ebbs and flows throughout the season. Everyone knows that. But you obviously want your highs to be sustained. And, you know, they figured something out, you know, particularly that first part of the order with Wynn and Burleson, how much they've been able to produce this kind of last couple of weeks when you saw Nolan Gorman kind of figure out his swing. You know, they have something in this offense if they could pitch. Starting pitching, definitely an area where they can get a little bit better. They've been trying to kind of patch it together with the likes of Lynn and Andre Palante at the bottom of that rotation. Sonny Gray's been awesome. I thought Sonny Gray was a tremendous signing, and he's figured it out. But when you're in the midst of a 162 game season, you know, that's the kind of mentality you have to have, is that how do you respond when things aren't going great? And how do you sustain being good for a good period of time? And the Cardinals have shown a lot of resiliency, which is a good sign if they want to make the MLB postseason.
Kevin Ryan's with us, and if you had only one move to make, if you could only acquire one piece for this team moving into the last couple of months or month and a half of the season, whatever remains after that deadline, what's that move you're going to make?
Yeah, I would go after starting pitching, just to help that rotation out a little bit. I'm not quite sure. I guess what's going to happen with Steven Matz. You're hoping that he would get back and he would be able to fill in that bottom of the rotation role. Galante, I think, has done a fine job for what he's been asked to do. They definitely have gotten some good contributions out of some of the guys that have come up from the minor leagues as well. But I think a real starting pitcher to either one, pair up in the front line or help them in the back end of the rotation would be someone that I would go after just to solidify things. Because, man, if you can make it a really short game, 6 innings, I don't know if there's a better bullpen in baseball than the St. Louis Cardinals, with the likes of Romero and King and Kittredge, and then, of course, the All-Star, the flamethrower, and Ryan Helsley, who's been just lights out. Reminds me of when I was growing up watching Mariano Rivera. I'm not comparing him to Mariano Rivera, of course, but, you know, just the ability to go out there and get 3 outs and be dominant while doing so. I mean, you got the team. You really do. If they can try to figure out that starting rotation.
Yeah, you're right. I think I agree with you. I've gone back and forth, maybe wanting a right-handed bat, but I do agree that you do have a lineup that has the ability. And I think sometimes their greatest ability is the fact that John Rooney says this all the time, get the line moving, right? They have the chance to kill you with base hits, quite honestly. Maybe you don't have the thumpers, but they're going to nickel and dime you, single and double you to death, and they can do what they did in that first inning against the Cubs and just keep putting up runs. And I agree that you do have a bullpen that you can make this a short game, and I think they need to capitalize there and get probably a frontline starter.
Yeah, at 100%. You mentioned the starting lineup, the bats. You know, we're talking about a team that the 4 or 5 games over at the moment and in a wild card positioning, and they've been able to kind of get their season back on track without the big boppers get going within the Arenado and Goldschmidt. You know, they've had, you know, they certainly have picked it up over the last couple of months, but they haven't really been what we've been used to seeing them in. And can you imagine if they get back to that all-star form? My goodness, you really have something here in St. Louis.
And I think that we're seeing a little bit of that from Nolan Arenado. I feel like there's a little more. You're starting to see some clutch at bats. You saw the 2-strike hit the other night against the Cubs. You know, the 4-hit day in Washington on that last road trip. I feel like he, I think of the two of them, looks like he could be closer to what we expect than Goldschmidt does at this point to me.
Yeah, and I'm encouraged by Goldschmidt because he's still hitting the ball out of the ballpark. I think if he can get to 20, 25 home runs, a little bit of steep of an ask the last couple of months of the season, but if he can get to 20 home runs and drive in 60, 70, or whatever it may be, I think he's had a really nice season for what it started out as. And I think the Cardinals fans need to think positively about that if he's able to get to those kind of production numbers. And then Arenado, you said it. I think he has really found his swing, and his play in the infield is always going to be great with his defense. I think that's kind of that resiliency, that mentality that let's go into work every day. Let's not worry about what's going on, with each aspect of the game. Let's focus on what we're doing great, and then maybe the other part of it will come. Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, they keep you interested for sure, even though they may not be the most glamorous team you watch. They're definitely keeping you interested, and if they can ever figure out those two in particular, their main all-stars, boy, I can see why everyone was super excited going into the season.
So, Kevin Ryans, who do you move now? Like, who can you part with? What do you have if you're the Cardinals? What do you have that somebody else wants?
Good question. You're stumping me because I really like to hold on.
Do you consider moving Ivan Herrera?
You can, though. I really like his ability to hit, and same, and to have a backup catcher to be able to go out there and do so. Yeah, I mean, do you move on from a guy like Walker, who you haven't been really happy with in terms of his progression, in the second season, and not really hitting the ball up here or down in Memphis?
That just scares me. That just, to me, that feels like it's going to be another Adolis Garcia and Randy Arozarena. Right. You're going to move on from Jordan Walker, and it's going to click, and you're going to be kicking yourself.
It's not a move that I would make, but it's something that you definitely toss around. Not something I would do personally, because I agree with you. I think he has all the stardom in the world. I mean, you saw how comfortable he looked at the plate. But what do teams really look at? Do they? The Cardinals have a big logjam in that outfield. Well, what do you do when everyone is kind of figuring out and clicking? So it's interesting. I certainly wouldn't do that move. But just if you want to get some good players, you got to give up the best too.
It's going to be intriguing, to say the least, over the next few weeks leading into that deadline. Kevin, I appreciate you taking the time tonight and chatting with us, and I will let you get back to the All-Star game. It's a scoreless game still, so it doesn't appear that you've missed much except for the cowboy hat introductions.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be able to talk shop, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. Our pleasure, certainly, and we will definitely do it again. We'll check in again, maybe as we get closer to the deadline.
Yeah, for sure. 1,000%.
Kevin Ryan's with us here from Fox 2. It is the Graybar Sports Open Line. I'm Joe Pott, in for Matt Pauley this week, and we have time for your calls. And we can talk about the All-Star game. We can talk about All-Star uniforms. We can talk about what the Cardinals, like I said, did they surprise you? Were you someone that thought this is where they should be? I know you want more. I understand that. We all want more. But judging by where they were, where they started, and certainly where 2023 was, how are you feeling about 50 wins right now in a wild card spot within striking distance of the division? How are you feeling about all that? So we can take calls on any of those things that you would like to in the next couple of segments here on the Graybar Sports Open Line. We'll come back after the break on KMOX.
News.
All the headlines that matter to me.
Weather.
If it's going to rain, I want to know.
Traffic.
Well, nobody wants to be late for work.
And who brings you that information every morning? This is Tom Ackerman.
I'm Megan Lynch. Hi, I'm Debbie Monterey.
I'm Roger Brand. It's Total Information AM, with everything you need to know.
What's going on in the world?
Weather reports are so important to start the day.
Tell me where the traffic is so I can get to work on time.
Total Information AM, mornings on KMOX.
Find out what's happening.
And always live on the free Odyssey app.
Are you dealing with tax debt or unfiled tax returns and don't know how to make the problem go away? Is just the thought of dealing with the IRS giving you a panic attack? Let Legal Tax Defense take the pressure off of you. All tax relief companies are not the same, and all tax problems are complex and different. If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS, the experienced tax attorneys and licensed enrolled agents can resolve the toughest cases. For over 15 years, Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating settlements for individuals and businesses just like you. All of their online ratings are A+. Even if you've received a threatening notice from the IRS, facing a wage garnishment, or have had your bank account levied, it's not too late to call Legal Tax Defense for a free, no-risk consultation. Get peace of mind and security knowing you hired the best. Call Legal Tax Defense at 800-469-1635. 800-469-1635. That's 800-469-1635.
You to the next level. It increases your metabolism, fights cravings, gives you all-day focused energy with no crash, and at night, it helps you burn fat by lowering cortisol levels. 213 Flashpoint Complex is available at Supplement Superstores. Find your location at supplementsuperstores.com.
Supplement advertising.
Injury Lawyers.
KMOX.
Hi,
I know that used to be every single radio host,
When you use Angie for your
every
home
show,
project,
everywhere.
you
Had
know all
somebody
your jobs
advertising
will
for
be
whatever
done
their
well. Roof repair,
supplement
done
was.
well.
Sounds
Kitchen
ophthalmology.
install, done well.
Ophthalmology or
Upgrades,
St. Louis
done
Weight Loss
well.
Solutions,
Electrical
like Debbie
upgrades,
does.
done
Like a lot
well.
of hosts
Angie's
at
been
that.
connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30
It is
years.
amazing how many
So we know the difference
posts on
between
this
done
station
and done
advertise for
well.
Ophthalmology
Hire
Associates.
high quality certified pros at Angie.com.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility.
I even saw today, I saw a bunch of like photos and stuff of the guys wearing like regular uniforms with those hats. Do that. I don't care. Do the stupid hats. But like, I'm getting this whole ugly uniform.
Granger, for the ones who get it done.
When the Cardinals had it, that was a home run derby.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea.
They still had regular uniforms overall, right?
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Hey folks, this is Charlie Brennan. Have you noticed loose bricks or missing mortar around your house, on the walls, patios, walkways, porch, or chimneys? If so, this might be a great time to call Morelli Tuck Pointing. What's tuck pointing? It's the removal of old mortar and the replacement of new mortar on a wall or chimney. Sometimes that mortar can become loose, missing, or deeply eroded. We've used the
I did learn a break, yeah.
several times, and in fact, this winter, we noticed the bricks that line the ground near our porch, our backyard, had gotten out of line and looked pretty cattywampus. One call, Morelli Tuck Pointing, the job was done. Morelli's the company that's won the Angie's List Super Service Award every year, back to back to back since 2005. Check out their reviews on the Google, Angie's List, and Better Business Bureau websites. The Masonry Specialists, 314-645-1387, MorelliTuckPointing.com.
The St. Louis Cardinals are one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. Following the All-Star break, they continue their push for the playoffs as they take on the Braves Friday night. Hear it here and every Redbirds game on your home of the St. Louis Cardinals. KMOX.
Guessing nobody's called yet. Okay. Back in on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Joe Pott with you in for Matt Pauley this week as we chat about a variety of topics, most notably the Cardinals. And you are welcome to join if you'd like. 314-436-7900 is the number you can call, and we'll chat about whatever you like, specifically the Cardinals, the All-Star game are right on the tip of our tongues. That's what we're talking about. In our last segment, we'll probably get a chance, I think, to cross it over with Nate Gatter. The St. Louis Soccer Report is up after us tonight. So I think we'll get a chance to cross it over with Nate just a little bit and at least preview what he has got coming up. I can let you hear some more of Randy Flores as well, just talking about what he did today in the final rounds of the draft. It was rounds 11 through 20 today for the Cardinals. And as you heard, probably I was talking earlier, it's a lot of older players that got drafted by the Cardinals. They went a lot of older college level players. So you have a call, so I'll get to our first caller, and that is Chris over on the Illinois side. Chris, you're on KMOX.
Hi, Joe. I really like the show a lot. It's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I just wanted to say I still really enjoy the All-Star game. I really don't like the uniforms at all. I wish they'd go back to the more of a traditional look. But what's even more surprising to me is I have an 8-year-old son who he is like glued to the TV right now, and he was glued to the TV last night. So it's nice to see the younger generation enjoying it just as much as I did too.
It's not has some of the luster worn off because of like when I was little, I was not obviously seeing a lot of American League guys, or I wasn't seeing a lot of American League stadiums. So that part of it, has that changed any of the way you look at the All-Star game?
I think it's taken away a little of the luster. I mean, I can remember watching NBC or CBS growing up when I was younger, and that was the only time you got to see the American League, or the World Series or the LCSs. But I think it's still neat to see the accumulation of talent that Major League Baseball has in one game. I don't know if on the internet you can watch some of the old starting lineups and see Mays and Aaron and Mantle and Willie McCovey and Lou Brock all in these lineups. And I think later down the line you'll look at some of the same ones, some of the same teams in All-Star games, and be just as impressed as we were from the games back then.
And hopefully, maybe someday we'll get to see uniforms again from all those teams, and not these blue and pink uniforms.
I really hope so. It's really bad. I saw a picture of the National League, or maybe I don't remember. One of them that looks tan, so pink and tan.
That would be the American League. Yes, correct. Well, I appreciate you calling in tonight and talking about the All-Star game. That was Chris, and I do. As I said, I like the All-Star game. I think it has. I think it's not quite as exciting as it once was, but I agree. And I said this to Kevin Wheeler earlier. I do, like he said, are you still kind of keeping tabs on who's there and all that? And I am. And that's I think that's pretty cool. And I think that's kind of what Chris was saying. I do think it's cool that Chris mentioned that his son is also tuned in, and that is, man, that's what baseball is needing to do, right? That's what baseball is trying to do. That's what baseball needs to do. Supposedly, that's what we're told anyway, is what a lot of, the rule changes are for, kind of catering to the younger generation. Certainly the time of game that was such a focus for Rob Manfred and for baseball over the last few years that led us to where we are with the pitch clock, in which some of those changes that were specifically targeted to speed up the game, specifically targeted to kind of shorten that window in which we had to pay attention, quite frankly. And the younger generation, that was what we were told anyway, is that it was fulfilling that need. I will tell you, I never thought, I was firmly on board with the baseball doesn't have a clock, baseball isn't timed, all of that. I have really enjoyed what the pitch clock has done for the game as far as pace of game. I do not feel like it's forced. I do not feel like it is unnaturally sped up, any of that. I think once the pitchers kind of took to it, the rhythm was fine. It felt perfectly natural. Hitters, pitchers, and it really didn't even take that long for them to kind of fall into that and get used to those changes. So that one I'm totally on board with. But again, to go back to the fact that I think, as the caller said, his son is watching baseball, and that is a pretty cool thing. His 8-year-old son is watching baseball, because that's what I was doing when I was 8 years old. 8 years old is right when that is. If I go back, that's where I am. That's where I literally remember everything about watching baseball. Is when I started when I was 8. When I was 8 was the 1985 World Series. So the 85 Cardinals are the first team that I recall specific games and specific players. I mean, I'm sure that I was watching and I knew of baseball, but I wasn't locked in until that 85 season, which obviously it's a pretty good season to be kind of getting locked in on, but that's what got it started for me. And I will tell you, the 85 World Series was the first time I could stay up and watch the World Series. So that was I turned 8 in October of 85. So I was literally 7 into 8. That was the year that I really started watching. So I'm glad to hear that 8-year-olds are interested in watching baseball and watching the All-Star game. We've got one more segment to go here. I think we'll get a chance maybe to cross it over with Nate Gatter because the St. Louis Soccer Report's coming up after we are done. One more segment here on the Great Bar Sports Open Mind. Joe Pot in for Matt Pauley. Still have time if you want to get in for 314-436-7900. Might be able to take a call or two. In our final segment after this on KMOX.
Here we are in July. Are you using your outdoor space? If you're not, there's probably a good reason. You didn't call Chesterfield Fence and Deck to really trick out your outdoor space. Imagine having a beautiful deck with a custom screen room that keeps the bugs away, or a custom sunroom that can even maybe be air conditioned, have a beautiful fan so you're outside but not fully in the elements. Or you can walk down those deck steps onto your beautiful patio that's covered by a pergola.
So you know the show is happening.
I don't know, pizza oven, barbecue grill, you name it. Let your imagination run wild and work with Chesterfield Fence and Deck to make it a reality.
See when I came back with my
free in-home
water,
estimate,
although I
free
didn't
project
look either.
design,
It wasn't
or
like
stop by and see them in the Chesterfield Valley to get a great idea of what the products look and feel like, or maybe get some great ideas. Chesterfield Fence and Deck will offer you 48 months interest-free financing if you mention me, Debbie Monterey. Find them online right now at chesterfieldfence.com. Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best.
What do Donna Vogt, Janet Williams, Susan Honor, and Jonathan Erst have in common? They're just some of the best fans in baseball and winners of a pair of tickets to an upcoming game.
Hey,
sir, how are you?
What's happening?
Want to get in on the winning team? To get entered,
You mind doing a little correction like thing? We just talked about
contest and upload
So is Jen not here at all?
No, she is
best fans in
she's on the road
baseball.
with the team,
Presented
which
by
Jen
King
said
Bullets
she
and
is.
Rollins.
She'll do
The
the
mark
pregame and
pro.
postgame and all the other stuff
Nice.
from the road. Normally she doesn't do that.
You really need your car because you need the best. Let us make your case our cause. Car accident? Call Onderlaw for a free review.
Dad is not doing well. He's on
9 million.
so they don't know.
We all hear the
Bill's
radio
playing
ads about the
game.
IRS.
I got
They
it.
tell you
Could
to
not
be
believe
afraid,
it.
be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
1-800-GOT-JUNK recycles because it conserves our natural resources.
We donate the donatables so they can be loved and used by another family.
Recycling saves us money. The less we take to the landfill, the more we save.
It also saves you money. Spending less on landfills helps keep our prices low.
People love to see a win-win scenario, but we've created a win-win-win-win
That's
scenario.
We make junk disappear.
All you have to
As soon
do
as it
is
said Chris, I was like,
800-GOT-JUNK.
or visit 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
that sounds good, but his number probably shows up
Everyone,
as that.
it's
So.
Ted from Consumer Cellular.
Oh,
The
no.
guy in the
His
sweater
kid
and
is the
this
funniest
your wake-up
dude.
call. If you're paying too much
He
for
is a
wireless,
sports
you don't have to keep having that
junkie.
night. Consumer Cellular has
Like,
the same fast, reliable
I
coverage.
mean,
as the
but he
carrier.
is
You
like
have to have the
throwback,
car.
James. He's like
Spending more
what
than you have.
we were like as kids. He's
Seriously.
not like what kids are like now.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of consumer
No, and
cellular.
he's not like into
Big data plans with
like,
unlimited talk and
like
text.
he would rather be out playing
Unlimited
football.
talk and
Playing
text data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January
They went to the
2024.
Hall of Fame.
Subscriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription.
I bet you-
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper, and you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. You'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping is prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
Join Mark at the seminars and lose weight or stop smoking guaranteed. Early bird special only $49.99. Seminars Tuesday, August 15th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suite St. Louis Airport in St. Louis, and Wednesday, August 14th at the 4 Points by Sheraton St. Louis, Fairview Heights. Weight loss seminar at 7 p.m. Stop smoking seminar 8 p.m.
Retiring soon? Get the information you need by joining Kyle Jones and Matt Allgeier of Fire Capital Management on your Retirement Highway, Sunday mornings at 9:30. Investment advisory services made available through Pine Ridge Advisors LLC, registered investment advisor. Securities made available through AE Financial Services LLC, Banner and SIPC.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Live. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
It is Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley here on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line all week long. Coming up after us is the St. Louis Soccer Report here on KMOX. Nate Gatter is with us. We talked last night a little bit, but tonight we can actually preview what's upcoming. Jen C is not in studio tonight because she's actually headed out with St. Louis City. They're on their way to Seattle for a game tomorrow night, and normally she'd be doing a lot of that stuff from here in the studio, but she gets a chance to be out there in Seattle. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm really excited for her. She got the chance to travel with the team a couple of times last year. She went to Chicago to fill in for Dale as the analyst with Joey. That would have been last May, I think, maybe June. And then she joined them in Kansas City as well, though I don't think she traveled with the team for that one. But obviously an important trip and a fun trip, too, in getting to be in Seattle, one of the more famous atmospheres in MLS, and then to Kansas City, which of course is charged up for every KC and City game, regardless of where the teams might happen to be in the standings.
I know people obviously hear Jen on the show coming up. They hear Jen on the pregame, the halftime, all of that on the City broadcast. What they don't maybe know is that Jen is at practices. She's at press conferences. She's feeding audio to guys like myself and James, our producer, every single week, so that when we're talking about other shows and we're using parts of whether it's John Hackworth or the players or anything like that, that's all Jen's legwork.
It is. And I think maybe sometimes we don't talk about it enough because with the exception of people calling in to be interviewed on other shows, whether it's this one with you or with Matt or on Sunday with any of you guys, mostly Tom Ackerman, with the exception of those instances, essentially all other City content on KMOX, whether that's on these airwaves, whether it's somewhere on the app or whether it's on social media, is produced or curated or otherwise credited to Jen Cease. Without her, I think the KMOX coverage would look a lot different. And we are really lucky to have somebody of her acumen, but also of her dedication as part of the team.
Amen. No question about it. What is coming up on your program following us?
So it's going to be a little bit different show because we can't have Dale Schilly tonight, and we can't have George Ganser, who's over in Europe. So that's our two regulars both out, but we've done well to replace them. We're going to be talking to Tom Timmerman at 8:15 in Dale's spot. Of course, Tom, the beat writer for City for the Post-Dispatch. Somebody I feel like we have on probably, I think this is the first time this season, actually, but maybe, well, we had him on before the season started. So we probably have him on 3 times a year. This will be the ones in the middle, if you will. Then we'll have Greg Barkey as well, who is works in officiating at MLS, sort of at an administrative role.
So you still get rules of the game.
Yes, we will still have the segment. Laws of the game. Yes, we'll still have the segment, just no George, and we'll have Greg Barkey instead, who is essentially the administrator at MLS over top of all of their video review operations, which I think is interesting
for sure.
And obviously, always the subject of controversy. In the second hour, when we usually tend to get away from City, or at least the analysis of City on the field a little bit, we're going to talk to Chad Otek, who is the head coach of the 2008 Lou Hughes Girls Academy team that just won the Under-16 National Championship in Richmond. Jen Cease's daughter is a highly recruited, highly touted high schooler on that team. And so very exciting for them. And we're going to talk to Chad about that. We'll also hear from Matt Steback talking about all kinds of marketing stuff. He's the chief experience officer, I believe. They have to do CXO. Obviously, CEO is taken.
Right.
So we'll talk to Matt as well. Well, Jen talked to Matt, and we'll hear that interview in the second hour. So all kinds of different stuff.
That's really cool. I've heard so much. I've heard from Matt on different occasions, but I know that that's obviously something that this franchise has done from before they ever took the field to obviously now the different experiences, and that it's important what the fan experience is. It's at least for his particular position, that's as important as what goes on the pitch.
And in my mind, I'm sure he wouldn't say it this way, but in my mind, one of the benefits of the season that they're having and of the general hardcore fans' attitude toward Leagues Cup as well, which I'm sure he's going to talk about, and he will push the ticket sales, and understandably so. And I'm not going to say it's a bad idea to go. I also understand why the tickets are not selling, and I don't think fans are necessarily wrong for that. The benefit of all of those things is, I think, as compared to last year, I'm not saying it's inexpensive to go to the games, but the price point is very different than it was at this point a year ago. And so maybe for the people who can afford to do $50, $70 a ticket instead of $150 to $200 a ticket, this year it's now feasible. And we always talk, sometimes Matt and other city people push this as well. I think Jen and I try to bring it up, the viability of City 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're a better team on the field than City, although City are now having to take a bunch of their players. So, that's the downside of being bad in the big leagues and good at AAA, if you will, is that the AAA team's going to get worse. So that, as it were, the Memphis fans kind of take the hard end of the stick here, the City 2 people do, but very affordable to go to those games, and always a good alternative, especially if you just want to get in and see the stadium, family-friendly environment, all that.
Super quick. I don't know if you have any thoughts or anything on this, because now there is another international opening in England.
Yes.
The Three Lions. The English manager spot is open.
Yeah, I think it's bad news for the U.S. because they went very slowly, probably too slowly, with their last managerial search. They, I assume, are going to want to go a little bit faster this time, but now there's sort of an incentive to wait around and let England go first, because it's going to be difficult if they are going after the top of the line people. And reportedly, they reached out to Jurgen Klopp initially. That was never going to happen, and it will not happen for England either. But if they are going to try to get an A or B list type of guy, that guy might be harder to get while the England job is still open. I don't know who the England candidates would be. They'll probably work their way down a long list of A-listers before they settle for anything less. I would not be excited about Gareth Southgate as the U.S. manager. Not to take away from what he did there. I don't think he would be the right choice at all. And this is an enormously important, aren't they all? But it's an enormously important head coaching search for the U.S. As silly as it probably was in sort of knowing they were likely wasting their time, I do think a good sign that they even bothered reaching out to Jurgen Klopp. It indicates at the very least a willingness to spend the kind of money it will require if you are going to get one of those guys interested.
Good deal. That is Nate Gatter. He's coming up right after we are done with the St. Louis City Soccer Report. So that's coming up on the other side of the news and all that good stuff. Big thanks to Brian Walton from TheCardinalNation.com. Thanks to Eli Hoff from STL Today and the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and to Kevin Ryans from Fox 2 for chatting with us tonight. Big thanks to Matt Majeski lining everyone up, and of course James O'Sullivan behind the board as he has been all night long. I am back with you tomorrow night in this same spot, and again on Thursday night in the same spot. So we'll get you through the All-Star break, and when baseball returns on Friday, so will Matt Pauley. I'm Joe Pott. This has been the Graybar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
If you have a problem with the IRS, believe me, it's not going away on its own. The IRS never gives up. They have endless resources, so they control the game. Well, your tax problems can end. I'm Attorney Lance Drury with a local tax resolution firm with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. I've handled thousands of IRS cases over the last 15 years. So when you hire me, you won't be speaking long distance or sending money to some TV pitchman that's riddled with consumer complaints.
Do you mind if I stay in this
First visit is completely free and confidential, and I'll tell you on the spot